Hello, and welcome to the Power Within podcast. I'm your host, Laurie. Today, I'm so thrilled and so honored to have two of my very best friends in the world on the podcast, Patience Smith and Chelsea Duggar. Many of you may remember Chelsea. She was on another episode. She is such a fun, bubbly, wonderful woman. She is someone who is very determined and independent, and she works so hard for all the things she does. She's passionate about her nursing job. She loves that. She loves to travel. She has taught me to enjoy life, enjoy all the moments that we get to have, to be present. And when we are enjoying like all the little beautiful things that life has to offer, to really be present in those moments and to really appreciate those things. I love that about her, and I always get so excited when I get to talk to her, or when I see her post things or share stuff with us in our chats and different things, because I've learned a lot from her. And she is a remarkable person, and I'm so grateful to call her a friend. Patience. I want to say she is one of the most constant, reliable people I've ever had in my life. I love her. She is my very best friend in the whole entire world. I am so inspired by her. She is kind and resilient, and she is fun, and she has so much faith. She is so positive no matter what life has thrown her way. She has always come out on the other side a better person than she was to begin with. And that's saying a lot, because I will say that Patience is probably one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met on this planet. And I have so much love for her. She's more than a friend. She's my family. And I truly think she has so much to offer the world. She's shy at times, and she's a little bit more quiet. So I'm so grateful to her agreeing to come on the podcast, because I wanted to be able to share some of her story with the world, because she's been through a lot in her life, and I think that she has a lot to offer when you listen. So I hope that you guys get a lot out of this conversation. I hope that you can be inspired by some of the stuff that they share, and their faith, and just that part of them that they're so in tune with, and they don't give that up for anything or anyone. And it has made them into these beautiful, incredible, kind, loyal women. And I think the kind of people that anyone would be so blessed to call their friends. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hello, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. Today, I'm really excited to have my two of my best friends on. Chelsea is returning, and Patience is coming on for the first time. So thank you, ladies, for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
So excited.
I wanted to do this episode because I think that having a core group of really good friends is really important. The first question that I want to ask you guys is, what is important to you in a friendship?
Honesty.
Yeah.
That's the most important to me.
Honesty, having someone
Integrity.
that you can trust, someone that you like feel comfortable with. Just it shouldn't feel like work.
Right.
I love that both of you guys embody both of those things. And I think it's so important in the world today. There's so many different ways to meet people. And I know that I met you guys through online. So I want to ask you guys, for that like technology portion versus going out, how have you found that it's easier for online friendships, and how have you found that it changes from in-person friendships?
But I think with like online friendships, I don't know, when we started, or at least like when I joined in with all of you guys, I don't know, it was so weird when you think about that. Like, oh, I met these friends online, and we were friends for a few years before we even met. So you're like, people will look at you and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah,
Right.
don't worry, it's fine. They didn't murder me. But I don't know. I almost feel like you guys, I'm closer with you guys, or like even talk to you more than I've, some of my other friends, are like, we're still just as close. Like it's super easy to like just jump right back in. Like right now, like on video, or even if it's not in person, or if it's on the phone, it's just like, because we're all on social media, so we can kind of see the little things here and there, but then we're texting or whatever. So that's really nice. The hard part is We can't just go down the street and like, oh, do you guys want to get together this weekend? Do you want to go to dinner? Like that is the part that really sucks because you do have this close friendship and you want to do those things together. But like even planning just a long weekend is something that has to be done like a year in advance just to try to make sure you get it together. And so like in-person friendships, yeah, that's, you can do that all the time. You can talk all the time, but maybe you don't even talk all the time. But I almost feel like that makes you appreciate the online friendships more because the time that you do spend together ends up being like almost more cherished than like we take those for granted when we're in person.
Right.
So,
I agree with that. I think too, you know, I think because when we joined, and like online, we were all following like One Tree Hill, and um, we had such a passion and love for the show, and so it was easy to like, like when we would get on there after the show would go off or something, everybody would be online talking about what
mm-hmm,
happened or whatever, and so people were agreeing or disagreeing or and I think it started out like just kind of like a fan. We were just all fans of the same thing. We all appreciated and we enjoyed the same um episodes, the same scenes, the same people, the same characters, whatever. And so then we kind of grew from that and then actually started like talking, finding out
yeah,
your actual interests other than just, the show and that kind of thing. And I think too, sometimes, a lot of people use social media. I think a lot of people use it like an escape,
mm-hmm,
like if maybe things aren't going so great in their life, maybe they don't have a lot of friends, maybe they don't do a lot of things. And so they can get on there and feel like they're connecting with people. They still
mm-hmm,
have that connection, because that's very important. I feel like people do need to have a connection. They need to feel not necessarily, well, I guess everybody wants to feel accepted, but I think too that they just want to feel like people understand the same things or their feelings or, that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm,
And I do agree that, we've seen each other several times over the years. And I do feel like that is those memories that we have of things that we've done together are more cherished versus, just getting together sometimes with, like you said, Chelsea, with people that you see more often or more frequently.
mm-hmm,
It's just kind of like not really another day, but in a way, it's just like
mm-hmm.
this is one of those things. And then, but when we see each other, it's usually few and far between visits. So when we do get together, it's really more special, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
that quality over quantity is
yeah,
what
Right.
it really is. And like we really do make the best of those visits, and it's always a lot of fun and a lot of laughter. And still, though, we still have, like, I know I talk to you patients almost daily, Chelsea not as much, but
mm-hmm,
it's I think it's so important because though it's built like this foundation of these really beautiful friendships. And I know that I actually met Chelsea through you patients, and
Hmm.
then we all started kind of like talking and doing that. And I think because we also have, I think at the core, you guys mentioned, like honesty, integrity, like those things that really build friendships that are really important. And one of the things that I love about both of you and is that you're not afraid to. I want to say this, and I know patients probably going to be like, "Ooh," like you're not afraid to say something that maybe would come across hurtful because it's not coming across hurtful in like a negative way. In fact, one of the things, and I told patients, I'm like, I have this quote that I found online that I love. And it says, if they avoid the hard truths and tiptoe around your flaws, they're not your real allies. If their voices go quiet when you stray from your best self, they're merely spectators, not teammates. And if you're surrounded by yes men and women, you're not in the company of friends, but in the midst of an echo chamber. And I felt like this is like really important because when we go through struggles or we go through triumphs and we have like all these different things that go on in life, I think it's really important to be able to call out your friends in a loving way, in a hey, you're stepping off track. So I want to ask you guys, why is that important for you to be able to have those friendships where you can be completely and totally honest? And also, how do you not get, like, if someone gives you a hard truth, one of your friends, how do you take that and not get offended by it?
I'm really,
I'm gonna let
I
Chelsea go
would say
first.
that I'm not great at like, I don't know. I like to think that I'm good at like constructive criticism. And I'm probably way better at receiving it than giving it. Because I am not going to always be, I have to be like really fired up and passionate to like bring something up to someone or it be like really causing an issue to like, I do not like confrontation, whether it's like between friends or between coworkers, like just, I just don't want to do it. But obviously, if you're really like close to someone and something's really bothering you, then I'm going to like say something. I wouldn't, so I would say that I'm probably better at receiving it than saying it because and thankfully I haven't had to have too many of those like conversations or anything like that. But I don't know. It's hard not to get your feelings hurt, or it's hard not to take that like too personal. Like you're like, oh well, okay. Um, so I would say I'm probably like more hard on myself when it comes to that, and I'm trying to like see it in a better light rather than I don't know, just assuming that they're picking me apart. Thankfully, there hasn't been too many of those. But yeah, it's definitely harder to, for me, it's definitely harder to receive.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So it is hard to be completely honest with people sometimes. Um, that was just something that was always instilled. Um, like my mom raised me. She, you know, she could handle anything, as long as I told her the truth. I mean, she was just like, as long as don't lie to me, don't try to get away with whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She always just wanted me to just be honest with her and tell her, I had friends in school, that they would sneak out of their house and come to my house and want to pick me up and go somewhere and and they would be sneaking out of their house, but I would call my mom and say, hey, because she would be at work because she worked a lot of shift work. So I would call her and say, hey, I'm going with so and so and we're going here and I'll be home. I'll call you when I get home or, whatever. And, and I think just having that, growing up is what, you know, always kind of pushed me to, to be upfront and be honest with
Mm-hmm.
people and tell them. But it is hard sometimes because you can see things that, everybody always says you can see things outside the box or from the outside looking in kind of thing. And so I try to be very careful with my words because sometimes I can come across a little bitchy-ish, sometimes, and I don't, I don't mean that to be that way. But I try to let somebody figure it out on their own. Like if they are doing some things or behaving a certain way or consuming themselves in things, I try to kind of like be supportive and be an ear for them to vent to or whatever, and then try to say, okay, they're gonna figure this out. We're just gonna push on through, and and then sometimes when it seems to be like it's hurting them more than you like, because when you're truly friends with someone, you want them to be happy, you want them to be accepted, you want the best things for them. And when you have someone that you just keep seeing being hurt over and over again, then you have to, bite the bullet and kind of say, look, this is what's happening to you. You just kind of have to be upfront with them and say, I care about you. I love you. I don't want to see you in pain or hurt or heartbroken and you just have to be honest and tell them. I had a friend when I was in school, and the first thing she always, when we first started being friends, she always told me, she's like, I will be I will be there for you. I will do whatever I can for you, but I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. That's not in my nature. I'm not going to step around and beat around the bush. I'm going to tell you like it is. And if you can handle it, good. And if you can't, well, you'll get over it eventually. So I'm not quite that, um, I'm not quite that, I guess, strong with it, but, I do feel like it's important um, to really be upfront and honest with people. Um, and I always try to, because for some reason a lot of people seem to come to me for advice on things, or because I don't know, I guess because I'm old and I know some stuff.
Oh my gosh.
But and so I always, and I'm really bad about looking at both sides of the coin. I'm not always one way or the other way. It's always, I can always see the sides of both. So I try to, like, incorporate a little bit of this side and a little bit of this side, and then try to help somebody if I can. As far as getting, I'm not fortunate like you, Chelsea. I haven't had a lot of critical things said to me, but when it has happened, I just try to reflect on, okay, well, I could have handled that a little bit differently. I could have said something
Hmm.
maybe not quite as harsh, or whatever, and then apologize if I feel like I overstepped, or if I feel like I maybe did more damage than what I meant to, or not that I would be trying to do damage to somebody, but by being honest, sometimes they take it that way.
Hmm.
And I always, that's another thing I feel like is important too, is to accept the mistakes that you have made,
Hmm.
and tell people, hey, I'm sorry. That's not what I intended. That's not what I meant. I
Hmm.
didn't mean for you to receive it that way. I'm sorry if I came across that way. So
Yeah. I think that's
that's,
so hard too, like to apologize. It is. It like just
hmm
along with like confrontation and stuff, it is so hard to apologize, even if you know you're wrong. You just, I don't know what, if it's an ego thing or whatever, but it is extremely hard where like to apologize. And I had like something like that like a while back that I had like said something, but I guess I mean, it was misconstrued a little bit differently. And I mean, and now that I look back on it, I'm like, okay, I just wasn't like considering like all the things that they're doing or they're like that's happening in their life. And then, so
hmm
when I said that, I was like, okay, like I get it now. Like that's very selfish of me how I said that. And so I had to like apologize. It was a little bit went on before I apologized because I was like, just okay, like well, whatever. Like if you're not gonna,
right,
talk to me, that I'm not gonna talk to you. Um, but I apologized and everything's like fine, but oh gosh, it's so hard. It's like the pit in your stomach. You're like, oh, I don't want to like confrontation. Like I'm like, I
right,
don't want to, I don't want to apologize. I knew I was wrong and I wanted to apologize. And I could do it over the phone, like text message easily, but doing it in person is also something like in person is just so much more meaningful rather than
yeah,
just you have to do it in person. You're hoping that that person like receives it well too, like the apology and like if you're critiquing them, like hopefully they're like a friend enough that they'll take that like with a grain of salt or just better than like some people could.
And
right,
I love that because I think it's really important to one of the things that I look at things as no one can offend you without your consent. So you
Hmm.
choose what to be offended over, what not to be offended over.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, I've said to patients, she's had to have a couple hard conversations, with me, which they've helped me grow so much because sometimes either we don't want to accept that truth that we see, or, we are not seeing things from that different perspective. So I think it's really important too because also can help other people grow. And then
Hmm.
to the piece where you just said about, you know, that apology if you have stepped out of balance or whatever, you know, like that's really important because that's accountability, and that's also authenticity. You know, that's authenticity on your
Hmm.
part by saying, hey, I'm gonna own this. I accept that I did this, and I'm gonna, you know, if I feel like this put me out of balance, then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to apologize for it. So I think that's wonderful.
Hmm. Right.
So one of my favorite things about you ladies is you both are very faith driven. You are very led by God, and you're very passionate about that. What is the most important thing to you about having faith, especially when you're going through challenging situations?
It's a
Well,
loaded, like, it's hard. It's should be so easy to answer, and it's so hard to answer, like, to give such a
right,
good, I don't know, like, because faith is so hard, like, it is, and it's not meant to be easy. That's why it's faith. I mean, that's why it's called having faith, because
right,
I mean, it's just so hard, like, and I still struggle with that, like, daily, having faith that, like, something's going to turn out the way I want it to, or I don't know. It's important having, like, other people who share those mindsets with you, because you can also lean on them to be like, hey, like, this is what's going on. Like, I'm struggling to see, this in it. So I think it's not just doing it on your own, like, really, like, leaning on others who can help you see a different side of it or help you get a different perspective. But gosh, it's hard. I don't know. It's so hard. Like, you just praying, like, I don't know. And I'm not like someone, I pray, and, like, praying isn't like always have to be like a, sit down, like, you know, conversation. Like, you can be praying in the car with your eyes open. You can just be talking to him, like having a normal conversation. That's something that I've learned or better accepted over the years. Like, okay, I can just, be having a conversation with him right now as I'm walking or driving or even in the middle of work. Like, it doesn't have to be as so formal. And that's nice to know, because then you are more comforted with that, and that just helps your faith, like, a little bit. But I would say, like, leaning on people when you're challenged with things and not sure what to do, like, other people who can you can kind of talk to, and explain, like, what's going on, and they can kind of just help you see a different perspective, and they're like, okay, okay, it just kind of, like, refreshes your faith, I think. And it's otherwise, I don't know how to really describe faith other than just, relying on God, like, that it's going to be okay, but real, like, leaning on other people.
What does it feel like for you when you say you can pray or you can, you know, talk to God or whatever you're doing? Like, what does that feel like for you to know that you're connected?
Um, it's just a sense of peace, I think. Just having and since I had started going to, like, the church that I'm going to now, I've been going there for like 3 or 4 years. That's when I, like, really got closer to God and, like, really started understanding, like, it's not how the way I grew up was very strict,
Hmm.
in a church, which is great. Like, that's my, like, foundation. And I'm so glad to have had that. But now I'm even more comfortable in my religion and in my walk with God because of this other church. Like, they've just shown me, like, how to pray, and that it's not like, it doesn't have to be some, like, formal thing. Like, formal is the best thing that I can, like, the best way I can describe it. Um, but it's just truly, like, such a sense of just overwhelming peace to know that you have someone up there that's, like, created you, like, in his image, and just wants the absolute best for you, and will forgive you over and over and over, and he's already forgiving you for things that you haven't even done yet. And it's just, and you don't have to be some, like, minister or scholar. I watch all these people on, like, Instagram or TikTok, and they're so eloquently spoken with their prayers or their words, and that's what I hope to be. I'm still working on that. And also, that's why I judge myself so much when I don't want to pray out loud in front of other people. I'm not a public display of praise, and I don't even like to, like, pray over meals or, like, with other people around out loud, because I feel like I'm judging myself. Like, this isn't so, like, beautifully spoken. Like, some people, they just know, like, what to say. I'm like, how do you know, like, what to say? But it's just, I'm still working on that. Like, just a conversation. But it's just knowing that I'm connected with him, like, no matter where I go, and that I'm forgiven. It's peace. Yeah, that's how I can describe it.
yeah. So I'm trying to go back and think of the question where you asked what was so important about it. And, I really think that a lot of, like Chelsea said, she grew up and her original church was a little more strict or, whatever. Um, I think that it's important to have that foundation. I think that a lot of people nowadays, may not have that kind of foundation, and
Hmm.
so they don't know how to connect. They don't know how to, um, I guess, have a relationship with God.
Hmm.
And, you know, Mom and I, we went to a church. We were from a small town. We went to church, and then when we moved here, to the south, we didn't have there wasn't I'm Lutheran, and so there wasn't a lot of Lutheran churches around here at all. Like there's Baptist and Pentecostal and all kinds of other, but Lutheran just wasn't as popular, or there just wasn't that many, so there was only like two churches when we first moved here. And now over the years they have, there are like, four or five different ones now, but you know, excuse me. I just feel like that, you know, it's never too late to have a relationship with God. You can
Hmm.
maybe not have any kind of um relationship or religion or anything in your life, and until you're 30 years old, and then you can start one. I mean, it's never too late to have one. And I do feel like that in the trying times, I've had a lady that I used to work with told me that, when you pray for things to get better, or you pray for things to get easier, that is usually when you have more stuff added onto your plate, because God is testing your faith.
Hmm.
You keep praying, I wish this would, I just wish that my life would be easier. I wish this was it. And then you come up with more challenges and more obstacles that you have to overcome. And it's kind of like, because you're turning to him, it's, I guess, in a way, he's trying to test to see, are you going to give up? Are you going to quit believing in me because it got harder and not easier like you wanted?
Hmm.
So, I just feel that it's important, because even if you don't talk to God every day, or even if you
Yeah.
don't pray every day, um, it's not like he doesn't know what's going on in your life.
Hmm.
He always knows. And, but you have to, um, I mean, you have to put forth the effort. I mean, you have to, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to, or why people, I guess it's kind of hard to understand, why people wouldn't, because he's done everything for us.
Hmm.
Um, and I just feel like that, um, I feel like it's important. And like Chelsea said, how she's learning to kind of talk to God more in not the formal or traditional way of, when we were growing up, it was always you got down on your knees and you put your hands
Hmm.
together and you prayed, before you got in the bed or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I feel like I talk to God all the time, or I, tell him something weird happens at work or something, and I'm like, Lord, you got to be with me today, because it's gonna be a rough one. I mean, you just have to, and he knows. Kind of like I
Hmm.
said, it's like he knows. So I just feel like that's an important. I think that faith is important, and sometimes it's, like I said, it's something that, it's never anything that is too late to start. I
Hmm.
think it is important to talk to God, even if you don't really know what to say. Just talk to him about how you're feeling. Talk to him about, things that are bothering you, things that are heavy on your heart. Um, Other people who
Hmm.
are experiencing and going through some really challenging triumphs, and trying to overcome things, very challenging things that I've never even had to deal with in my entire life. Pray for them. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to start it out you know, like I said, that it's like a conversation. It would
Hmm.
be just as easy to have a conversation with him as it would be for me to call you on the phone and talk to
Hmm.
you on the phone,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so I just think that, that's what I do. That's how I feel like I have turned to him and, because when things get hard or things are going all crazy, I'm just like, Lord, you know, I trust that you know what you're doing. It's in your hands, and whatever it is, whichever way it goes, is how it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
Um, so
I love that. However your faith is, whether it's through God or universe or however you see that, I think that the thing that's beautiful is you were talking about, when you start asking for help, you're going to get even more challenges coming your way. And it's an opportunity because God's never going to give you more than you can handle. It's an
right,
opportunity for you to be able to overcome those challenges or to practice. I think there was a film with Jim Carrey. Maybe I can't remember the name of it, but there's a scene where Morgan Freeman and the girl are talking, and she's talking about all the things that are going on, and he's saying, okay, you asked for patience, now I'm going to stick you in traffic, I'm going to give you the opportunity to have patience, or I'm going to give you the opportunity to practice all these challenging situations. And I think that's really important because so often I know, even for myself, when I've been praying and I'm like, whether it's like I'll use the patience one, or like, oh, I just want more patience. Okay, well, I'm going to get more opportunities for it, so it's going to really test me, and I'm going to be able to take that time and go, okay, practice patience, breathe, and do
Hmm.
that. So I think that's really important. And I I would like to, for a second, with patience, I shared with her, I've been so inspired by her for a very, very long time. She is an incredible woman. She is so strong. She is kind. She is loving. You know, I I remember when you lost your ex-husband and then you became a single mom. You went through a lot of challenges, but you never lost hope. You never lost faith, and you always maintained that positivity. And you always wanted to make sure that you were doing the best you could, that you were the best version of yourself. And I think I was always so inspired by that because, like, when I think of like what a good mom is, it's right there. Like, looking at her, like, that's my ideal of like that great mom. When you were going through all of those challenges, what was your inspiration? Like, how being a mom also helped you grow?
mm. Well, um, I think first and foremost was probably from Gavin, my son. You know, he was 10. Um, it was a complete surprise when that happened, and my main focus was, how am I going to get him through this? How am I going to help him be okay? How am I going to help him understand, and and those type of things. Um, that was something that I never expected. That was nothing. That was something that I had never planned, or you don't think about. I mean, people get divorced all the time, and you don't ever think about um, what would happen if the other ones commit suicide. Um, your biggest worry is, at one time, I think, not long after, my concern was, well, who is he going to marry, or who's he going to, or what girl is going to be around my child, or that kind of thing. And I think it's the same thing too with men. They wonder what their ex-wives are gonna have, what kind of man they're gonna have around their kids, or whatever. And and with that being such a um, sudden and tragic kind of moment, it was really, I mean, that was something that I really had to pray about. I really had to ask God, talk to Him, you know, because I had no idea. I didn't have any idea how I was going to um, have, because at that age, um, when the child is, when they don't really, he understood God and he knew about God, and but they don't really understand the circumstances, or they don't really understand what that means, you know, when they're just gone. And so I really had to pray about it every night, like, just help me, Lord, just help me get through this for Gavin. Help me, because when it, like, right after it first happened, I tried to keep everything normal, like, try to keep everything, because he would always go with his dad's family, or his dad would come pick him up every other weekend. And, he would go spend the weekend out there with his cousins and family and things. And, you know, we didn't want to, we didn't want to disrupt that, because, none of us knew. I mean, his family, they had never had to experience that. They had never had to go through that. So we were all just trying to, like, talk and converse and say, okay, how do we need to handle this? How do we do it? And, you know, we couldn't we couldn't just come out and say exactly what happened, because I was worried for Gavin. I was worried for him to know exactly what happened, and so it's really trying. And so, like, there for, like, the first couple months after, we continued to, like, have, like, his uncle would come pick him up and take him out there, and so that he could see his family and all that, and still kind of keep that pattern, that, that normalcy for him. Um, and he knew, that he had died, that but he didn't know, um, until we started. I thought that it would be better to maybe to help him if he went to therapy. And when I went and talked to them and explained the situation, um, she said, well, before we allow any children to start here, she said, you really have to tell them the truth. You really have to tell them exactly, you know, what happened and why, because that's the only way they're gonna really heal. Because if you tell them, oh, he died because he was sick, or, whatever, they don't really understand that. And then they worry, if you get sick, are you gonna die? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you had to, so that was a really, really difficult, conversation that I had to have with him, with a 10-year-old, and
Mm-hmm.
explain to him, this is what happened. And of course, you try to leave out the detail, or, you don't want it to be just overwhelming for them, but I had to, and I had to at that point also, because there were other members of the family who talked about it in front of their kids, and the kids knew. The kids talked about it or said things, and you don't want your child to find out something like that from another child. You know, I was always very cautious about what conversations I had in front of Gavin or when he was around, because their ears are always listening. No matter what they try to tell you, they're always listening. So, um, yeah, I mean, it was just a really trying time. And, and I feel like that I just kind of leaned on the Lord and was like, you know, just help me get through this, help me get Gavin through this. And we went to therapy, and we had people that friends, and my mom was a big help. Um, just in talking, just in conversation, because there were so many things that I needed to say that I couldn't say. Being a single mom, I couldn't say things or whatever. So my conversations most of the time occurred after Dana went to bed, or because I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger and frustration, and why in the world would you do this? And there. So it was a, and they actually had, like, when the kids went to the therapy, the parents could sit in, so I got to listen to some other pretty severe cases where their children were dealing with death. It was a grievance counseling type thing. So I got to listen to how other parents handled, and how they tried to explain to their children, or how they had to help their children. And I think that helped too, just trying to get support. And, we're kind of all experiencing this at the same time together. And so, um, but yeah, I mean, I don't really know how I got through it, really. I mean, I know that the Lord helped me through it, but I'm saying, like, because you just have to take on that responsibility as a parent, and it's just like you have to do what's best for your kid up front, And so he was my main concern. As long as I could keep him, happy, and have him understand the things that that he was dealing with, or help him try to let his feelings out and make sure that I was there to support him. I think that was the main thing for me.
I love the that kind of support that you were just talking about, like how you were a support to him, and then you had that other support too. I know that both of you guys are very close with your moms, and those are very vital relationships to you guys. I would love for you guys to kind of share a little bit about the importance of that relationship that you have with your moms that's kind of shaped who you are as people today.
Well, so my mom and dad divorced when I was like 4 or 5, maybe. And I was lived with my mom. I would go see my dad like every other weekend, but I really didn't start going to my dad's every other weekend until I was like maybe 10, when he got remarried, and his new wife kind of enforced that. And it was more because before then he would just be out partying or do whatever, and it wasn't like I would see him, but I wouldn't. We just didn't really care about the whole set thing. So then I would start going over to his place. It was more, and at first it was like whatever, but as I got closer to 13, I was like, did not want to do this because I never had a good relationship with my dad. Like, it was just is what it is, because I was always with my mom, and he was okay, he was fine, but just I don't know, it was not like a stranger, but I don't know, just completely opposite of like what it is with my mom. Like, I think Patience had mentioned earlier, like when her friends were sneaking out, she would just go out and tell her mom, like, hey, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. I like, I mean, when I was never like one to like sneak out, because my mom, like, I didn't have to. Like, I could just, my mom, like, she knew where I was going and approximately when I would be home, or like call when I'm coming home or whatever. Like, it didn't matter. Like, she trusted me. And so I would say I never really had a curfew because I didn't really have to. I was home like long before it, like, it became an issue. Um, and that was before you could have like each other's locations, which we still have. We have each other's locations now. And so I don't know, just the fact that she trusts me and I trust her, and that I can quite literally tell her anything. There's some things that I probably like wouldn't or whatever, but honestly, like, we like I mean, she lives with me, so my mom lives with me, so we're around each other all the time. So there are those moments where you're like, okay, like I need a break. Like, so we fight sometimes a lot because we're always together. Um, but also like I'll still like I'll leave for work and then I'll come home. On the way home, I have like a 10-minute drive, and sometimes I'll call her on the way and we'll talk. Like I'm like, okay, I'm pulling in. Like, gotta go. Like I'll be right in there. Or I'll call her on the way to work. Hey, I forgot this, and we'll talk on the way to work or whatever. So we do have this moment where we fight, but then we're also calling each other on our 10-minute drive home. Um, but I can't imagine like not having a relationship with a parent. Whichever one you're close to, it could be your dad, it could be your mom, because some people are like the way I am with my mom, but with their dad. Um, I can't imagine that. I'm like, okay, like your dad, okay. But I was always closer with my mom and like her side of the family and my grandma, so her mom. And it was just natural because it's like that. It's been like that forever. It's like something that I could always like go to them and about anything and everything, and um, just like no judgment. Like I don't know. I just can't imagine not having a relationship. Um, so obviously we grew up in church. So the way that she shaped me was just encouraging. Like we like were going to church like all the time, pretty strictly, and then we got out of it for a while. But the faith, like the religion and the belief in God, was always still there. There was never like an anger toward Him, maybe toward an institution, but not Him. But yeah, just I think having that relationship with her, like always just being able to trust her and that she trusted me, and just I don't know. I think just having the trust in each other and always having that faith, like being able to go to her and talk to her, like that's something that I want to be able to have with like kids when I have them one day. Just that they can come to me with anything, and she's always like allowed me to do that, like no judgment, nothing, just so that I would say that's like the kind of relationship that shaped me. And so it's just, it's so natural. So I don't really think about it like how it could be on the other side because it's all I've ever known.
Um, my mom and uh, I feel like my mom really sacrificed a lot for me when I was younger. My parents divorced also, like Chelsea's, when I was like 5. And so the town that we lived in was like a really small town. There wasn't a lot of employment opportunities. I mean, she worked, but it was, it was just kind of like there wasn't anywhere for her to grow. There wasn't really anywhere that I could, and with her being single now, like the better jobs were like an hour and something away. And so she ended up, she reconnected with one of her military friends, and they had a position here at the air base that she had had when she was in the service. So she kind of came down and talked with them or whatever and got a job, and we moved. Um, but it was a struggle because um, my grandparents and all her family on her whole side of the family lived in Virginia, and we moved to Mississippi. So it was like, it was like a 18-hour drive to be able to see them. It wasn't like, when you move away from your family and it's just like a couple hours and you can still go see them, so, there were a lot. And on top of that, my mom, since she had just started this job, she kind of had to earn her time and that kind of thing. So, she never got to, at first, she never got to take off holidays or, the only time that she could take vacation, um, she could get her week and we could go to Virginia then and see her family. But just like the regular holidays that people here, that they don't really realize how lucky they have it, like for birthdays and Easter and, the St. Patty's Day parade or Valentine's Day or, whatever, July 4th. um, you know, we didn't get to spend those days with our family. And she was the only one, she was working and the only one that was supporting us. So, um, she moved away from her family to give me better opportunities, I guess, which how you look at it. And so, when I was younger, I mean, there were Christmas mornings that I woke up and, you know, she would come get me. She would be at work and she would have to leave work on a lunch break and come get me and take me back. And I'd sit at work with her on Christmas Day or, whatever. Um, and I think that, when you're young, I wouldn't go as far as say resent that, but, when you're younger, you don't understand and it's not fair. It's kind of like, um, you see all your friends spring break and whatever, they go to spend the holidays or whatever, spend time with their families. And it was like, we couldn't because mama couldn't get off work. And when she did work or when she did have time off, it was usually like either in the summer or something. And, we could go to Virginia and that was the only thing we did was to go see our family. We didn't get to take like a vacation and go to the beach or go do something fun. It was, and not that I even, um, you know, I, I don't want it to sound like, oh, well, I didn't get to go on vacation. I had to go see my family all the time. No, it wasn't like that. We were excited. That was the only time we got to spend with our family. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we did. It was just that's just how it was. And, and so, and then as I got older, um, you know, I got to spend more time with my grandparents. When I got a little bit older, we would meet my grandparents in Tennessee and they would pick me up and I'd go back with them and I'd stay with them for like a month. And so I got to see all my cousins and all my great grandparents and all that kind of thing. And I looked forward to that. I enjoyed it because I never got to see them and for the whole rest of the year. So, you know, and then when you get in your, early 20s and you're trying to do your own thing and figure it out, mom and I weren't as close, um, because I was kind of trying to figure out my own path, trying to figure out my own life, trying to, whatever. But it always comes back. It always circles back around. I think a lot of kids nowadays go through that. They are really close with their parents and then they kind of aren't close with them. And then as it turned out, when you get a little bit older and you start, having families or, whatever, it comes back around where you get that relationship back with them. But and me and Mama, we've always been close, but like there was a time period, probably I would say probably 4 or 5 years in my 20s that we talked. She still had that weird shift work, so I didn't get to see her, but every 6 months or so. Um, but so there were a lot of things that went on that I didn't necessarily talk to her about or tell her about or whatever, but um but then then it's kind of like you realize that you miss that and you want that still. And so I think probably since that point in time, my mom and I have been super close. She's one of my best friends. I tell her everything. um There are a couple things that I try not to tell her. I usually end up telling her anyway, but I try not to tell her at first because I don't want her to worry, that kind of thing. And then I tell her. But yeah, I think I feel like my mom was always very honest. She was always very truthful. She was always she doesn't like a lot of confrontation. I was always a little bit more outspoken on that kind of thing. My mom was always, she didn't want to push anything. She didn't want to ruffle any feathers or, whatever. And I'm like, screw that. You need to tell them the truth. So some of those kind of things we don't necessarily see eye to eye on, but I can get her roused up about it for sure. Like I can get her to the point where she thinks she's going to say something and then she don't anyway, but whatever. But yeah, but we've always been, except for that just one little brief few years there. We've always been really close, and I think that I feel like, she raised me right. I feel like she raised me to be a good person, to be honest with people, to work hard. You know, I think I've gotten a lot of my work ethic from her because it's like, you know, she was a single mom, I'm a single mom. Sometimes you have to put, I mean, nobody ever wants to put their job before their family, but, sometimes you have to survive. I mean, you have to, so I have, not when Gavin was younger, but I have done that more as he's older, and I know that he can come in here and fix him something to eat, and he can do this, whatever. Um, I can work a little bit later, or I can, do some things that I need to take care of, and I don't have to worry about him, you know, not being fed or, that kind of thing. But yeah, my mom and I are really close, and like I said, I owe everything to her, I feel like, as far as who I am as a person and where I'm at. I couldn't have done it without her, for sure.
I love that. And both of you have wonderful moms. I've met both of your moms and they're just lovely people. And one of the things that I appreciate too is that, I've had ups and downs with my mom, and watching you guys with your moms has made me, it's actually improved my relationship with my own mom, because I look at it and go, okay, we may have our differences or we may have those things, but I got inspired to see like the impact that you guys have had. So I do work good to have that relationship, and it has improved so much. And I've seen that improve more as I've been friends with you guys, and I've kind of been able to see the dynamics, because you guys do like, I love my mom, and she is a good woman, and I think it's that it's so important, and that's something that I learned from you guys, and I love that. I want to switch the topic for a second and ask you guys about self-care and about doing things that you love and that you're passionate about. And I know that Chelsea, you are cheerleading coach. You've been working out more. You've been doing a whole ton of different things. Patience, you've got your dog and you've got your reading, and like, so can you guys share a little
You
bit
got your
about,
dog.
My
well,
dog.
I got my cat,
And
so
she's got you still have your turtle. You still have a turtle.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do still have my
got a
turtle.
turtle too.
so I want, so yeah, you guys share. I want you guys to share just a little bit about what you do for yourself that makes you happy for your self care, or how you like to spend your free time.
Um, well, um, I have not been working out. Like, I have not worked out like at all since August, like before August. I was so like adamant about that. Like, I was like in a good, like last year, I was in a good routine of like, I'd be at the gym before August, like in the summer and the spring when and last year was my first year kind of like really getting into cheerleading, like coaching cheerleading. And first of all, I like to say I was not a cheerleader in high school, so I have no idea what I'm talking about half the time. But I just kind of, the other coach is the main coach, and we just kind of spiral off each other and help. And I'm learning so much. So last year was the first year kind of really starting that and getting into like the schedule of it. So I realized when school started, working out was going to be difficult because we had practice a couple days a week, and then when basketball got into full swing, there's just no time. Like after work, there's no time unless I'm going to get up early in the morning. And I know that there was a time when I did start getting up early. I would go to the Y and I would be there at 5:30 for a cycling class, and I would try to do that 2 days a week. But I'm not a morning person. Like I barely make it to work on time, and I work 10 minutes away. So that is a struggle in itself. So I really haven't worked out since like before school started. And I'm hoping to get back into it this summer because I was going like 3 to 4 days a week, very consistently doing something, whether it was a class or in the gym, weightlifting, doing something. And I miss it because it really does like I remember how I felt. Like, it's not even that I'm eating terrible. I'm not eating great though. But when I was in the gym, it felt a lot better to have that social hour and to just, you felt healthier even if you weren't like eating so great because you had that balance. Um, so I need to get back into that. But besides that, I honestly, like, I'm so busy, like, with cheer, I think, and then work and being on call. There's not a lot of, like, super free time, but when I am, I try to go, like, hang out with friends, go to dinner, we'll go to movies, just do something that one or the other, like, each other likes, or hang out on the weekends if we have free weekends. Um, but I will go, like self care wise. I try to get like massages every so often with this girl in town. And Hannah, shout out Hannah. I'm gonna make her watch this and listen to this, and she's gonna love it. But Hannah is amazing, and not only is she my massage therapist, but she is my therapist. Like when I go in there, some people will like fall asleep. They won't talk. We talk the whole time. We yap the whole hour, and I don't just get like a half hour massage. I got to get an hour because we'll talk the whole time. And I try to like get to the end, and I'm like, okay, just close your eyes, and no, I end up talking like we can't help it. So that's like honestly getting those massages like with her has really helped too, because I don't know, we just clicked. And we don't really hang out like right now. She's gonna be having a baby this summer, and so she's like spending time with her husband and just getting ready. So we don't really hang out outside of getting a massage, which is so strange. But when we're there, like we pick right back up. Like we talk the whole time. We're so equally weird in our little things that it is so funny. But she has like really helped me in some times with things at work and just where I needed to rant so much because I would be ranting in there during my massage, and she just knows what's going on. So that in itself is self-care, because I'm getting the massage, which is nice, but then I'm also getting to rant and she's getting to talk to me, and you just are kind of creating this other relationship with someone where you feel so like at ease. And I saw this quote online where it says like some people will like energize you and some people just like, I can't remember the exact, but like make you tired. You want to like surround yourself with those people who like energize you and you don't feel like you're worn down after you leave with them. She is like one of those people who will just energize me. Like every time I leave, I'm just okay. And then I also started getting my nails done with another girl at that salon. And she goes to IU East where I went, and she's like working on her nursing career right now. So it's really hard to like, I'm not a regular client of hers. I just have to grab an open slot when she posts it on Instagram. And her name's Grayson, and she's amazing. And I've posted stuff on my Instagram of like my nail highlight of all the things that she's done. But that's what I get done. I do massages. I'll get my nails done. A facial every so often with a massage, all with Hannah. Hang out with friends.
Sporadic
And
trips
then
to Disney World or Paris.
go to Paris, go to Bordeaux, Disney World. Oh yeah, I went on a cruise. No, those things seem like they happen just out of the blue, but for the most part, I'm like been planning them behind the scenes for months and saving for them for months. Like our last trip for Paris, we'd saved for like a year for it, and then and my cousin lives there, well lives in Bordeaux, so that's makes it kind of easier because she like is it like helps us. We don't really stay with her, but that's nice because I would have never gone there without her. And then we went on a cruise with some coworkers, and that cruise was super budget friendly because we all stayed in the same cabin, and we got our flight down there and back for like $100 or less because we just took a carry-on, and it was so budget friendly. Like, and we were splitting everything, and then we were in the Disney World was very like spur of the moment, like a little expensive because we were in the airport and we're like, what do we want to do when we get to Orlando? And I don't know who brought it up. We're like, we could go to Disney. And we did. We booked our tickets to Disney in the airport. And then as soon as we landed in Orlando, we rented a car and went to Magic Kingdom because one of the girls had never been there. So we're like, well, of course, we're going to go. And we were able to hit all the major things in like 6 hours.
Nice.
So that was very spur of the moment. I was like, oh, I'm not going to think about how much this was right now because Disney is not cheap anymore. But yeah, so I love to travel. So if I can go like even on just like a long weekend somewhere like just away from my house, that's nice. But just hanging out with friends or anybody, like going and doing axe throwing or going to dinner, just little, I mean, things like that.
Well, besides my dog, um, I
I
do
didn't mean it
tend
like
to.
that.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. No, look, I love my BB. He is sweet and he needs a lot of attention. So, but I don't do, I mean, I don't know, self-care. Okay, so I do go get my nails done like once a month. Um, and that's probably the extent of what I do. I don't go get massage. I went and got a massage one time a long time ago, and I literally got a migraine when I walked out of there because of the scent stuff that they had in there. And the thing was, like, the whole time she was, doing the massage and everything, I was fine. We were talking, I was having a good time. I walked out of the building and got in my car, and I mean, literally hit
Um,
me. I was in the bed for the rest of the night. I have never gotten a massage ever again. Ever since then. That's been 20 years ago, I know. But anyway. I have a couple of friends here, like one of my old coworkers. I have a girl that I used to work with her and we both went to college at the same time. Um, and she lives about 30, 40 minutes away. And she has a daughter that she's raising. She's recently divorced. And so the two of us try to get together like once every couple of months, we'll go to a movie or go to dinner or go, something like that. Um, and then, my neighbor down the street, um, we actually just got together last night and had dinner, and we haven't done anything like that in probably 6 months, and she just lives down the street. I mean, so, um, I don't really do a lot. It sucks that I don't live closer to either one of you. Um, and we could do that whole, let's go have you know, let's go have dinner, let's go to a movie, or let's, whatever. But,
Sweet
um,
magnolias.
I know, right? So,
if we lived closer, I told my mom, I'm like, if I lived closer to them, I'd be there like every weekend.
I
I mean,
mean, it would be so much fun.
it would be.
It would be so much fun. Have midnight margaritas or whatever. Yeah. But, and I don't like my mom. I mean, I don't get to see her very much. She lives like 5 hours away, so she's gonna be coming in a few weeks. I haven't seen her since Christmas. So I don't really do a lot, to be honest. After the work week that I usually have, I just want to be home, watch some Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever. If I have to go out and get something or whatever, that's fine. But like, I just want to be home. I want to be left alone. Other than when I talk to y'all or, my mom or something on the phone or whatever. And just hang out with my dog, take him for a walk. We're good. I'm good. That kind of,
I'm the complete opposite of that. I have
uh,
my moments where I'm like, okay, I just don't want to do anything. Like, usually I'll take that time when I'm on call for a weekend, and that'll be my like excuse. I'm on call. I'm not going and doing anything. I'm staying home because I don't like to plan anything in case I have to go into the hospital. So what's the point?
right.
So that's my weekend. But then after that, I'm like ready to go. I'm like Friday. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm
Yeah.
like, but here lately it's been cheer, so I have a bunch of cheer, and I'm gone all the time.
Right.
But otherwise, and so Sundays are like my even not then I'm like, and Sundays by the time I'm busy all weekend I actually do like chill on Sundays for the most part. But
Mm.
otherwise, if I'm not doing cheer, I'm like, okay, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to like plan something? Like, what are we doing? And if I'm not doing anything, I'm like, what do I do
Chelsea's
with
idea
myself?
Right.
of
But I
self
think that
care.
makes a lot of difference too, because you live there and you have all your friends, like people that you've known and gone to school with, and so there's a plethora of possibilities that you could do, and it's kind of different from with me, I know, and I think
So
well
you
with
need to
Lori
move here
too.
then.
Well,
Get your mom to come too. It'll be fine.
that's never. I mean, just never know what's going to happen over the next course of.
See, that's something that I love though, is that self-care for everyone looks different. Like for Chelsea, it's, more like being social. For you, it's more introvert.
Mhm.
Even for myself, it's I love, like, for me, self-care is writing in my journal, or, washing my face every night and every morning, more like a little ritual. Or I've always loved hiking. Right now I can't do that because my foot's been injured. So, like, my idea of self care right now is I'm becoming Betty Crocker, and I'm knitting and sewing and learning to bake and cook. And I think it's important though, because it's a way to take care of yourself and nourish yourself and love yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
I have two questions that I ask all of my guests. My first question that I want to ask you guys is, do you believe in fate, or do you think that everything is predetermined?
Okay, so yes and no, I guess. Yes, I do believe in fate. I think like so many things just happen and I'm like, okay, this has to be fate. Like that you were in this moment at this time, met this person, like I'm like, I don't know, there's just so many examples that I could give. Like I started work at the hospital that I'm at now, and not too long after I started, I met one of the reps that work with us. And then because I met her, we became friends. And then she invited me to this hayride that her church has. And the next thing I know, I'm like going to her church for the next 3 years. And that church is the one who kind of really shaped my like faith now. So like if I wouldn't have gone to that church, or if I wouldn't have gone to that job, like moved out of my other one, met her, then I wouldn't have gone to her church, and so on. So I just everything happens. Like I think it is fate, but then I also think like back to what we were saying before, like um, with God, like if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, which I guess is also kind of like fate. But yeah, just everything happens for a reason. So it maybe that is a little bit of the predetermined side, but also like very much I think I believe in fate. There's so many examples.
I mean, I do feel like I believe in fate at times, because ironically, so when I was talking to you about, I think one of my examples that I feel like fate intervened was when I started, when I left Farm. I used to work at Farm Bureau years ago. I left there, and um, right after Gavin was born. And when I left there, I went to work at a daycare, which I know a lot of people gave me a lot of flack on that, but it was where Gavin was. And so it was really close to home. So I was saving money. I wasn't having to drive to work every day. And, you know, I was right there. I couldn't take care of him, but like I was there so that if he got sick or if I needed to take him to the doctor, I could just leave, go get him, whatever. And while I worked there, I met my neighbor who lives down the street from me right now. And she was pregnant at the time and wanted me to, she was looking for somebody to take care of her kids at their house. So I was able to leave there and go work with her, and keep the kids, and I got to keep Gavin at home with me until he started preschool. So that was a plus, because I couldn't afford to not work, but anyway, and that was before we got divorced. But then, after that, I did get divorced, and then so I got a job with a girl who I actually went to high school with. She she had recognized, I guess she saw the application or whatever that I had put in for, and told them, hey, I used to go to school with this girl, I think it'd be fine, whatever. So I started working for them, and then my boss that I had there actually knew a man who used to work where I'm at now. And so when the company that I'm at now um, needed someone, he called my old boss because by that point we had gotten laid off. I had gotten laid off. And so he was like, hey, do you know somebody? And he was like, yeah, I know this girl. So, so I feel like each, as far as like the jobs that I've had in the past 20 years, have all been related to because somebody that I knew was there and referred me or whatever, and it's kind of got me to where I'm at now.
Mhm.
So I do feel like fate does happen in ways that you don't expect. But I also do think that sometimes, um, I guess things can be predetermined at sometimes too, but I do like to kind of feel like more of a fate kind of person than I am a predetermined kind of person.
Yeah.
So the second part of this question is when you're on your faith path. So for you guys, when you're aligned on your faith path, do you think that there's free will? Obviously, when you go off and you're not following whatever your faith path chooses to be, that that can be free will. But when you're on that path straight, do you think that there is free will?
Yeah, I think 100% there is. Because you're choosing to be on or you're choosing to be off. And even when you're on there, there are so many like choices that you can make that will like obviously like determine like what's going to happen next. I think God has a plan for us sometimes where it doesn't matter what you do, like whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen, but like still like you're making choices to get to it, like certain roads, you're making these choices, and ultimately I think he has an end goal for us. And he has a plan for us that we'll get to, but like the road that we take to get there is our choice. We can go down the hard road or the easy road or whatever, and there's going to be things along the way that like will maybe like you know, come in and like block us from doing it like one way or the other, but 100% free will because you can be on or off that road and that path. But hopefully there's this like end goal that he has for us that's like good and what we all want in the end. But I definitely think it's like free will. I wouldn't say that it's like not free will just because there's so many things that you can do along that you're making the choice. So that's all up to you.
Personally, I feel like it is free will, but to me, it's kind of like your choice. But I guess for me, I don't really feel like there is another choice. I'm not trying to make it sound like you don't have a choice. You do have a choice, but to me, following that path is the way. I realize that there's a lot of different things that you can do. There are hard roads and easy roads and whatever roads they are. You like Chelsea said, you can choose, which path you're going. For me personally, I guess is the better way to put it, is I'm a follower of his word and I'm a follower of him, and there really is no other way for me. Like,
Yeah, and I don't want like people to think like because I think Christians and stuff it can be so like this is a cult or like whatever you're doing like something of this higher being or whatever, but like if like if you get it you get it, like if you know like, but I'm trying to explain it in a way that like I know what God has done for me and I know like what he's done for everyone else and like what he went through like for us, and it's just I'm so passionate about that and I believe in that with my whole heart that like I just there it just doesn't seem, I mean, like she said, there's no other way, like, and I don't want that to seem like, oh, there's no other way, like this is against your will. No, it's not. Like it is just no other place that I'd rather be is than on this path because I know that the end result is going to be just this greater life, this greater peace than anything that we've ever experienced here on earth. Like it's
right.
just it's kind of hard to put in words, but it's not. Like I don't know, there's just I don't know, like and I'm not so great at
I,
explaining it, but yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people, they forget or they don't, it's hard for the mind to process. This is what, Pastor Chip was talking about the last week, is that it's hard for your mind to imagine eternity because everything on earth is a beginning and an end. There's no, everybody knows that something's going to end. Everybody knows their life's going to end. Everybody knows that this is going to end at some point in time, whatever. Um, and it's really hard for, for you to focus on the fact that you can actually be living where there is never an end.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I feel like a lot of people live and do and make choices and follow their paths and whatever because they're living for where they are right now. What can I do before I die? What can I do on this earth? What's my goals, my dreams, my bucket list, whatever? What am I going to do before my life ends here? And I think the focus should be more shifted on what am I going to do to get there to eternity. Yeah, they don't need to, I think so many people focus on their life here and what's accepted by man and what's accepted by whatever. And the focal point really needs to be, what can I do to make sure I have eternal life with God and with, or the universe or however you want to look at it. I know there's different beliefs and I'm not trying to judge anybody that doesn't believe in God or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, for me, I think humankind here tends to focus more on the now
Mhm.
versus forever.
So
Yeah.
you mean like soul work?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you want to, yeah, it's like she said, it's so hard not to keep like going on to this, but it's so hard for like the human mind to like process what eternity is or to think of a place where there is no sickness, there is no crying, there's only happiness, there's only, filled with peace. And I know I keep going back to peace, but that's like the best way to describe it is there is a place out there in the end where like you're kind of working on yourself now, like you're working on your soul to get right so you can like just be a better person, like, and you want to work on that like your whole path. It's an everyday thing that you're going to have to work on. It's not like one day you got it, you're good, the next day completely screwed up. But you're
Right.
constantly working on it to hope that one day that's like where you can ultimately be. And it's just so, and it is like, it is hard to like process some of the things you're like, your just mind cannot imagine.
Right.
But where your faith comes in, faith knowing that there is this like ultimate end, which is not an end, it's a beginning, like another beginning. So,
Right. And I think too, when you said that about, um, the, of your mind and not being able to imagine the future, or like a forever, like it's hard to imagine living in that, but it's also like you do have to work on yourself. Um, and I do think that, a lot of people think, a lot of Christian people, you know, they believe in God, they have faith in God, they know, but they are like, I'm good. I go to church every week. I go this, I'm not, and no, that's not, you can't just believe in it and still go and do whatever you want to do, with the choices that you make, and then say, oh, well, I can go back to church and he's going to forgive me of my sins and everything's all good. Like, you really have to, you really have to work on your internal, like, like in your inner self. You really have to, like, try to do right by every way that you choose in your life, in your professional life, in your relationships, everything. It's not just, oh, well, I go to church, I believe in God, and, I'm planning on going to heaven and I'm good and I can go out and act a fool tomorrow and it'll be all right because I know God's going to forgive me anyway. No, no, that's not how it works.
yeah.
It's a constant, everybody has things that they need to work on themselves, and you do have to have the faith, to believe that you're going to get there, with God's help, and hopefully you have some good, um, faith friends, family, whatever, to help you get through the struggles as well, or have like a support kind of thing. Because it's always nice to have people that you can relate to and have conversations with
Hmm.
about God and, His Word and things, and feel like that you're all kind of like on the same page. It's
Yeah.
nice to be able to have those kind of conversations too. So
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I appreciate you guys sharing all your thoughts, and I'm very, very grateful. I love you guys. I'm grateful, and I hope that you guys had fun.
yeah, we did. We love you too. Thank you for
Thanks.
having us.